What is up, everybody? We are now 6 days away from the start of the preseason, meaning we're a little over a month away from the start of the actual season. So, to get us all in the mood, I'm going to make 40 predictions for this season. The first 32 are going to be one random prediction for each team, and the last 8 will be regarding the playoffs and how I think those will go. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I think I'm going to get a lot of these right. I'll probably get less than half of them right, but I'm going to take a shot and we'll see how things go. And you guys can look at this at the end of the season and see how things went. Okay, number 1. Derek Mason's not retiring. I think Joe Flacco can breathe a huge sigh of relief, and I think he improves on his numbers last year. At least 18 touchdown passes and at least 3,200 yards for Joe Flacco. 2. Chad Johnson tops 700 career receptions, 10,000 career receiving yards, and 60 career receiving touchdowns. That would put him among the borderline Hall of Fame receivers already. So those are some huge milestones for a receiver. And I think this puts him among the top 30 wide receivers of all time. So I think Chad Johnson has a nice comeback season. I also think Carson Palmer has his best season since he tore his ACL. Number 3, the Browns regret trading Kellen Winslow Jr. and their quarterbacks, whoever starts for them, whoever plays for them, throw combined more interceptions than touchdowns. Number 4, Santonio Holmes has a 1,000-yard season, which would be his first of his career. Hines Ward, who had his first 1,000-yard season in a few years last year, does not, as we see sort of a changing of the guard as Santonio Holmes takes over as the number 1 receiver. Number 5, a lot of focus will be placed on Peyton Manning passing 50,000 career passing yards and 365 career passing touchdowns. But while this will happen, I think, Adai has a 1,000-yard season. He's been a little off lately. He hasn't looked quite right in a little while, but I think he has a 1,000-yard season this year on the ground. Number 6, Torrey Holt had his first lackluster season since 1999 last year. On a terrible Rams team, he just didn't have it. So I say he bounces back on a new team where he is going to be the primary offensive threat in terms of the passing game. And I think he has at least 80 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Number 7, Andre Johnson wins the Triple Crown for receivers, meaning he leads the league in receptions. I'm going to say he has 125. Leads the league in receiving yards. I'm going to say he has 1,600. And leads the league in receiving touchdowns with 17. I like Andre this year. Number 8, LenDale White and Chris Johnson both break 1,000 rushing yards on the season. Not something that happens very often, but I think White and Johnson do it. Number 9, Terrell Owens is pushing towards some career milestones. I'll probably talk about that more as the season goes along. But I don't think he breaks 1,000 yards through the air this season. Number 10, the league realizes how overrated Ronnie Brown is, and I think Ronnie Brown finishes the season with less than 900 rushing yards. Number 11, the Patriots have a lot of running backs on their roster, so I expect 30 touchdowns or less from Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady will play well. I think he'll have a quarterback rating above 90. But I don't expect more than 30 touchdowns because you've got Fred Taylor, Lawrence Maroney, Kevin Falk, and a lot of good running backs on that team. I think they're going to change the identity a little bit. Number 11, I don't know who's going to start at quarterback for the Jets. Kellen Clemens or the rookie, Mark Sanchez. Whoever it is, I expect less than 14 touchdowns and more than 19 interceptions. I don't like either of those guys. Number 13, Brandon Marshall isn't too happy right now for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is the loss of Jay Cutler. I think all this combines so he has a down year. I say 60 receptions, 800 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. Number 14, Larry Johnson kind of fell off the face of the earth the last couple years. I think this is going to continue. I expect less than 800 rushing yards from Larry Johnson. I think he even is worse than he was last year. 15, Darren McFadden of the Oakland Raiders. I think it's time. I think he's going to have a good season. 1,000 yards on the ground for him. That's what I'm feeling. 1,000 yard season at least. I think he starts getting a little more carries than Fargas and Bush. 16, Tomlinson's last great year. I'm going to buy into some of the hype. Part of me thinks maybe he's done, but I'm going to say he has one last great season. 1,200 rushing yards on the ground. I'm feeling it from LT. Number 17, Jay Cutler, on a lesser offense, struggles and throws more interceptions than touchdowns on the year. Number 18, the Packers have 2 wide receivers go over 1,000 yards on the year. Greg Jennings and Donald Driver. I say they both break 1,000 like I believe they did last year. 19, 1,800 rushing yards for Adrian Peterson, and that will be enough for the rushing crown, meaning he will lead the league in rushing yards. Number 20, Calvin Johnson is second in all receiving categories to Andre. I think he'll have something around 110 catches, 1,550 yards, and 15 touchdowns. I think he'll have a monster year and be second only to Andre. 21, I don't think the Falcons are going to be as good as they were last year. I think they're going to disappoint a little bit. However, Tony Gonzalez will break 1,000 career receptions, 12,000 career yards, and 85 career touchdowns. He's already the best tight end ever in my opinion, but those milestones will be the first time a tight end ever reached those statistical milestones, thus cementing his status as the best tight end of all time. Number 22, I feel another dual 1,000-yard season this year for Jonathan Stewart and DeAngelo Williams. I think both have more than 1,000 yards rushing. Speaking of 1,000 yards rushing for number 23, I think it's finally time for Reggie Bush. 1,000 yards rushing for Reggie Bush. I'm just feeling it. Number 24, Josh Freeman develops a positive relationship with Kellen Winslow. I think the Bucs will be bad this year, and I don't even know if Freeman's going to start at quarterback, but I think he will play some games. And either way, I think Winslow has 80 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns or more. Number 25, Jason Witten, now as no doubt the best receiving option on his team, breaks at least one major single-season tight end receiving record, be it touchdowns, receptions, or receiving yards. I think one of those records falls. 26, 55 or more total team sacks for the New York Giants. Number 27, the Eagles start their season 6-0 before their clash against the Giants. And they could win that. I don't think they will. But I think the Eagles start off 6-0. I look at their first 6 games. I think they can take all those teams. Number 28, Malcolm Kelly and Devin Thomas combine for less than 25 receptions on the season. The Skins need those guys to play well. I don't think they have it in them. Less than 25 total receptions for Thomas and Kelly. 29, Kurt Warner plays less than 13 games on the season due to some injury, meaning he plays 12 or less. Number 30, Isaac Bruce breaks on his career 1,500 catches, 15,500 yards, and 95 touchdowns. And you'll appreciate him more than you ever have. He will go down as one of the greatest receivers of all time. I feel like he's been overlooked throughout most of his career. I think it's time more people took notice, and I think you will after you see his career stats after this season. Number 31, Patrick Kearney bounces back, has at least 12.5 sacks, which pushes him over 90 career sacks. Finally, 32, Mark Bulger is reportedly on his last chance in St. Louis and blows it with more interceptions than touchdowns on the season. Those are the 32 team predictions. Now to the playoffs.